So I called it Teaching Matters a Lot. And now we've got evidence that we can actually show to prove it. I mean, in a sense, I was thinking, what are we talking about this for? I mean, the University of California, we value teaching. It doesn't say let there be research. It says let there be light. So, we've been doing this now for like 150 years, and it's the others who are emulating us, not the other way around. So, I'm not expecting anybody to read this here, but what are we talking about this for? Because teaching is explicitly listed as one of the mission points in the University of California. So you can go online and you can read all this stuff, but it isn't a matter of debate. It's not a matter of conjecture. It's a matter of fact. This begins by saying, we teach. We're educating undergraduates. We're educating graduate students. We're even educating people in California's population who aren't, strictly speaking, enrolled as students at the university. That is part of the UC mission. So we don't need to debate such a point anymore. And then there is, if you go to a UC website, the little video here, it says, the University of California defines what it means to be imaginative, audacious, and pioneering. But defines is not passive in this case. It's like, here's what we do, and that sort of defines it. We define what it means to be imaginative, audacious, and pioneering. In the active tense, in every possible way. And here's one example of what I mean by that. And that is the STEP Plus program that UC Davis has. We're now completing about the 4th year of STEP Plus. And if you want to talk about a program that's visionary and transformative and audacious, I think this falls into that category. People, when this was voted on, I think lost recognition of the fact that STEP Plus was an academic Senate-driven program. The Senate created STEP Plus. Yeah, Academic Affairs implemented this, under the brilliant guidance of my predecessor, Maureen Stanton. But this was very much a Senate initiative. And it was the Senate that said that in addition to classically rewarding excellence or outstanding research, that it is now time to do the very same thing for teaching as well as university and public service. And you can go online and you can look at these STEP Plus guidelines. I'm not going to read them all here. This is just a particular example that I took out. We have a professorial series. Here is the lecturer SOE series. But the point that I really wanted to make, which I highlighted in yellow, is that it is not only possible to get an additional half of a step for excellence in teaching, highly effective teaching, a strong record, with achievement in this area, but it is being done right now. So it is being done locally at the colleges by the deans, if they can understand and appreciate that there is outstanding teaching going on, or it is being done through CAP and sometimes by me as well. Now, of course, then how do you know what outstanding teaching is? It's not for me in academic affairs to tell you what it is, and this is something that really has to be done on a fairly local level. But one of the points that I will come back to is that in order for outstanding teaching to be recognized, it has to be at least shown to the people who are doing the reviewing bodies. So you'll see that in the STEP Plus guidelines, as an example, chairs and deans should be encouraged to articulate and comment on the departmental and dean's letters. Outstanding professional achievement must be demonstrated by substantial pedagogical or curricular innovation. This applies to professors as well, not just the lecturer SOE series. Evidence for outstanding professional activity might include unusual levels of research and publication on pedagogy and on the candidate's field as it relates to pedagogy. So these are simply examples. You'll find examples as well for the professorial series. I would have included that, but I'm trying to keep the slides down to a minimum. So how again, do people get recognition for outstanding teaching, given that the university explicitly wants to recognize outstanding teachers? Well, one way, of course, the low-hanging fruit are student evaluations, but there's all kinds of evidence to show that while student evaluations can be useful in some ways, that they can be misleading or potentially even detrimental in other ways. So these are used, but they are not used to the exclusion of other things. What are some of those other things that can be used? And I put up here, the absence of evidence is not necessarily evidence of absence. If nobody talks about outstanding teaching, then nobody recognizes outstanding teacher. So where can this actually occur? The first place that it should be occurring is in a candidate statement. So get the word out to people in your department about this. MIV is largely factual. Okay? Things that are relatively indisputable, except maybe contributions to publications and all that. A candidate statement should be analytical and it should be interpretive. This should be the first place where outstanding teaching becomes crudescent and apparent to anybody who's reading it. The second place should be the department letter, in which the chair reflects the sentiments of the department at large. The second place where outstanding teaching should be brought to the surface. The third place could be a chair's confidential letter. If a department fails to potentially do a good job of recognizing outstanding teaching, a department chair certainly can. Now, these are called chair's confidential letters. They don't go through the department process. In fact, they're really not confidential because everybody will see a confidential chair's letter at the end of the process anyway. So that's what they're called, but they're really not. But that is where a chair can become involved in this. And then the dean's letter as well. Dean's letters matter a great deal because the deans see people from all the departments within a particular college or school or division. And so the dean putting this into context, if this is an action that is going to go up to Captain Academic Affairs, matters a very great deal. Because if a dean doesn't recognize outstanding teaching, then it's going to be fairly hard for Cap or for me to do that as well. So in addition to student evaluations, what else can be used to attest to outstanding teaching? Peer evaluation of teaching, which is probably way underutilized. Normally you only see these things at barrier steps anyway, because that's about the only place where they're required. But there's nothing stopping people from getting peer review of teaching at any particular merit. Contributions to diversity. Okay. Contributions to diversity can enter into all areas of evaluation, not the least of which would be teaching. And I'll show you some examples of that in a bit. Educational innovation, outcomes assessment, the impact your teaching has on students, and I'll come back to that. And then transformation. You know, how have courses changed? How has the presentation changed? How has the educational effectiveness changed? These are all examples of outstanding teaching areas. You've probably heard, about the LSOE series. We've had it on campus for a bit. There are a lot of LSOE faculty, but the APM is in the process of being revised. It's nearing completion, and hopefully by the end of fall quarter 2018, there will be a revised APM 285 and an accompanying APM 210 to address the changes in the LSOE series. Well, why should we care about LSOE series? Particularly if you're in the latter ranks and they're not. These are academic senate members who are experts on teaching and learning. Okay? So having them in our departments is a value not just to the students, but a value to us. They contribute to elevating the quality and the impact of teaching in the department. We as professors can learn from them. I, as a professor, have learned from other people who are experts in teaching. And now LSOE faculty are joining more and more departments at UC Davis. I'm guessing that probably around the end of, let's say July 1st, there will probably be somewhere in the range of 35 to 40 LSOEs on our campus. All right, so there are drafts going around right now of APM 285 and APM 210. I just thought it would be interesting to quote some of these things, how they're being reviewed for teaching excellence, professional and scholarly achievement and activity, university and public service. But the point is that even within these criteria, APM 210, which also addresses latter faculty and other titles, okay, the standard for appointees in the Lecture on Security of Employment series is necessary for maintaining the quality of the university as an institution dedicated to education. Okay, it doesn't just say dedicated to research. So I'll keep reiterating this point. Education, teaching is not a second cousin twice removed from our mission at the University of California. And there are other areas that I mentioned contributions to diversity, for example. And so within APM 210, if this ultimately makes it the final form, contributions in all areas of faculty achievement that promote equal opportunity diversity should be given due recognition in the academic personnel process. And they should be evaluated and credited in the same way as other faculty achievements. That's in APM 210. It's there now. And in this title series, let's say LSOE, although it could certainly apply to professors as well, efforts to advance equitable access to education, public service that addresses the needs of California's diverse population, or teaching that is particularly sensitive to diverse populations. Mentoring and advising of students and faculty members, particularly from underrepresented and underserved populations, should be given due recognition in the teaching or service categories of the academic personnel process. Many of these rewards can purely be intrinsic, and I have no problem with that. But under Step Plus, the rewards can also be extrinsic as well, if they get recognized. And again, deans rely on the departments and the department chairs to recognize what these outstanding contributions are. I ran across this photograph that I thought was kind of funny, because apart from the suits and ties, this could have been me right across the street in what was then called 194 Chem. Now it's called Peter Rock Hall. And actually, I had Peter Rock as a teacher when I took M1C across the way. But this is what education was like when I was an undergraduate in the era of, let's say, animal camps came out. Okay. But that was then, and this is now. Now, as a person who teaches vet students, that former model, which I did for a long time, doesn't work at all. I took a bunch of courses, actually, from people on this campus, which transformed the way that I do my teaching even right now. And so my teaching has become sort of a hybrid of a little bit of lecture, but a lot of team-based learning, followed by getting back together, all over again as a class to talk these things out. There are different ways of doing team-based learning, and I'm not a purist in the sense that I don't have the students grading each other or anything like that. You don't start with the teams and then the lecture. But the point being that we all have to be educational innovators, and it's that type of innovation that I think needs to be recognized and can be recognized and should be recognized, okay, in the merit and the promotion system. I'm a big proponent, by the way, of bringing research into the classroom, partly because I don't think that I would be here today were it not for some of my own professors on this campus who brought their research into the classroom and let me know that I had the potential, instead of being what I came here to be something else, something different, something more challenging. And so I like to make this point over again, that as educators, the impact that we have on students is almost undefinable and unknowable. And I liken it to sort of this butterfly effect, where it might be just a few random comments or an opportunity here and there that might take somebody who comes to this university and has no idea what research is, and turns around then and goes in a direction that leads them to graduate school, and or a postdoc, and or a faculty position. Somebody like me who came here who wanted to be a veterinarian, I would probably go back to my community and have my little animal hospital in a strip mall. Okay, but it was the professors who turned me around. That's what did it. This is what I mean by a butterfly effect. A few opportunities here and there, a few kind comments that said, you've actually got the potential to do something different than this, and you want to think about it. I remember their names 20, 30 years later from that. So research is not the enemy of teaching, and teaching is not the enemy of research. And a really good example of somebody who I think epitomizes that is Judy Kass, who just recently won the undergraduate, the UC Davis Prize for Teaching. And I had a chance to read through the entire dossier that was put together by the department. And what really struck me were not just the high student evaluations, but rather the impact that she had on students. Students who were often first-generation students, students who had no exposure to research before. And she's bringing them into her laboratory. And she's talking to them. And they're turning their careers in directions that they never contemplated before. Some of them are now faculty at other universities. They've become major scientists in an area. And this is the effect that one person can have on somebody. So, let's talk about teaching and, how is there any argument that it is not, one of the top pillars of an education at the University of California? Along with research, teaching, public, private, university service, they all matter, they're all recognized. And it doesn't have to take second place to anything. Okay.
There you go. time to answer any questions.
Be happy to.
Thanks.
What efforts have you seen that have been successful in promoting this culture in the
I think I've been at this for a year, so I can't really speak longitudinally about it, but we are seeing increasing use of contributions to diversity statements. We are seeing impact of teaching addressed more and more so going beyond purely the student teaching evaluations. And I think because we are recognizing those individuals within the STEP Plus process, and they are getting additional half steps, then I think that is going to contribute to changing the culture over time. When people realize that it's not just important to do because it's important, but you can actually be rewarded for it in a way that you weren't before. That's part of changing the culture, because there is still somewhat of a mindset out there that STEP Plus has actually been detrimental to the university because they believe that it devalues research. Okay, and that on the surface is false. Okay, you do not need to devalue research to elevate teaching. It is enough to just say that you are elevating teaching. Cultural change takes a long time. You know, our coach survey that we're just looking at right now, Marco's going to be looking at it. This was taken a year ago, and you can see that some of these ideas, still pervade the mindset. But we're moving in the right direction, and STEP Plus is helping that by explicitly rewarding outstanding teaching.
I'm an LPSOE in the Department of Psychology, and I am sort of moved to build on that idea of the changing the culture. It seems that it's seen as a very top-down decision to hire these LPSOEs across campus. That it was a very orchestrated, organized, system-wide push, and that then individual LPSOEs are in these different departments. And a lot of that building respect and building community is on us. We got to be excellent at what we're doing and show our value. But how is the institution sort of helping, now that we're there, make sure that we're a community and that we're moving forward and that we are...
It's a really good question, but from the standpoint of academic affairs, I don't really know how to answer that because change occurs locally. Mm-hmm. It doesn't occur in Marac Hall. It's a matter of changing the department culture, but interacting with colleagues, demonstrating just how valuable you are, not just to the students, but also to them as well, I think will change the culture. You're members of the Academic Senate, okay, just like the assistant associate full professors are. Okay, so you are colleagues, shoulder to shoulder. Here's your area of expertise. They have their own. There shouldn't be this type of hierarchy. Security of employment is not the same as tenure, but it's no less either. I think you just have to start doing this locally and working with getting department chairs to acknowledge this and understand it. Recognizing the chairs turn over a lot.
All right, thank you so much.
Sure, thank you. Thank you very much.